Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's The Business Program, everyone. I am Audrey Cleo Yap. I am the culture and trends expert for Pandora. I'm also a multimedia journalist. Before we're joined by our guests today, I want to let you know that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies entirely on donations to provide emergency assistance and free educational programs to SAG-AFTRA artists. This conversation is made possible thanks to the generosity of our supporters. Over the past year, the foundation has given over $6.5 million in COVID relief to more than 7,000 performers. If you are a SAG-AFTRA artist and need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description box of this video. Thank you for your support. Okay, now without further ado, I want to introduce our panel, a group that puts any of my fitness to shame. I've never felt more out of shape than with this group. I'm so excited to introduce Janeshia Adams-Ginyard, Dana Vahle, Jwaundace Candece, Shawn Balentine, and Alyma Dorsey. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hello. This is such a great group. I know this is going to be a fantastic conversation. So I want to kick it off kind of with, a general kind of history question, your professional history. How did you all get started in this industry? What made you want to do this for a living? Dana, let's actually start with you. You have such an interesting background.
Okay. What do we want to start with? When did I get into the filming part of business, or in general?
Absolutely. I mean, you used to fly helicopters for the news business and then transitioned into this part of the industry.
Yeah, I did corporate flying. Well, actually military flying first. I was a former Army pilot. Then I flew for corporate stuff. And then when I moved to LA, I got involved with people that were doing the Airwolf TV series, which predates all of you probably. Because it was made in the mid 80s, but that's what got me started in it. And since then, I've done a little over 80 feature films, a lot of TV shows, music videos, commercials, that type of stuff. But it's all related to flying, is everything that I've done, whether it's helicopters, airplanes, seaplanes, all of those things. So was very active in it until I transitioned 10 years ago. And then that was kind of the end of my career as far as that's concerned. In the last 10 years, I've worked a total of 3 days under a SAG-AFTRA contract, to give you an idea of how slow it got all of a sudden, and those have been, I think the most recent one's been 3 years ago, and the other ones were 10 years ago. So not particularly good response from the community. It's not particularly friendly to somebody who transitions. And I know that Shawn certainly he and I have talked a little bit, and he's had some similar experiences. So.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that, further down this panel. Definitely an important topic. And I know all of you have thoughts and experiences that you want to share. But Alyma, Janeshia, Jwaundace, Shawn, how did you all get started? What made you want to do this for a living?
I didn't know that I wanted to do this for a living, to be honest with you. I kind of fell into the industry and it kind of chose me, which is a blessing all in itself. I mean, I was playing beach volleyball. I was doing the AVP qualifiers, and it went bankrupt. The AVP went bankrupt in 2012, and none of us knew what we were going to do. And Quentin Tarantino, who was one of my sponsors, who I also trained, he just said to me, Alyma, why don't you come with me to Louisiana while I film Django? He's like, you can just make sure I'm healthy. I was only supposed to be there for 4 months. I ended up being there 7 months, literally sitting there every day watching stunts and some of the acting, but mainly stunts, to the point that we had 2 months left. I literally walked onto set one day and I was like, Q, I can do stunts. And he goes, yes, you can. Jeff Dashnaw, meet Alyma Dorsey. Alyma Dorsey, meet Jeff Dashnaw. And then I started training with Clay Fontenot, Emily Bropes, I had a bunch of mentors there, a guy named Nito, and literally 2 months later, I booked The Butler. And 2 weeks later, I booked American Horror Story. And I just never went back to playing beach volleyball. So it was almost a fairy tale kind of situation for myself, but I'm so thankful for it because I was ready for the opportunity, which is really the name of the game when it comes to getting into stunts. It's like, okay, you can do it. Are you ready if given the opportunity? And I was given the opportunity and I was ready. And I loved it. And I never went back to playing beach volleyball. So I kind of fell into stunts.
I could kind of say the same because I moved to Los Angeles in 2000 and I moved to pursue an acting career. I'm from the theater and I wanted to pursue film and television, but there was a show came up called Women of Wrestling and I tried out because like all actors, you're either bartending or you're doing something else. And my something else was wrestling. So I became tag team champion and I actually got recruited by Queen Latifah to be your stunt double for Bringing Down the House, along with one of my teammates, Elle Alexander. And I didn't take it seriously until I did Bringing Down the House, Taxi, Scary Movie 3. My fourth movie was with also Queen Latifah. And we were sitting on the balcony last day of filming Last Holiday. And she was like, it's not too many Black girls who do stunts. You should really take this seriously. I always wanted to be an actor, but I rapped. So I thought about what Whoopi Goldberg also said. It was one of my inspirations too. She said, you got to do what you got to do to get to where you got to go. So I came back, I took driving courses. I finally got my motorcycle license because I didn't know you actually needed to have a motorcycle license. I drove motorcycles all my life. So I started training and I literally fell into stunts. And I give homage to Queen Latifah for that, because ever since Bringing Down the House, she tagged me along and I started doing other shows and training with other shows. So, and I love it. I mean, it's gotten me to where I am today. So I'm grateful to that and grateful to the people here on this board too, that I met along the way.
Okay, so I'll go. So I actually got into stunts through my athletic background. I actually didn't know anything about stunts. I did collegiate track and field. I was a hurdler and heptathlete. After I finished collegiate track, I went on to be a brakeman on the U.S. national bobsled team. So I did that for a short stint. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of getting big. I don't want to look like Amazon. Let me just do some sports modeling. So I did a lot of Nike campaigns. I would always be like the jock on a commercial or a TV show. So I really was acting first. And it wasn't until I watched a movie where I saw a guy running very horribly that I was like, I could totally do stunts. Like he was running same arm, same leg. And I'm like, being a college track athlete, you're like, that is completely wrong. You don't run like that. I could totally do stunts. And so it was really from then where I found me a private tumbling coach to teach me basic gymnastics so I can get air awareness. But it definitely came from my athletic background and acting first as like a jock on shows, movies, and commercials.
And for me, I did the same thing. I came from an athletic background. I was the world champion in martial arts, point sparring. And some of the people that I did it with when I was a teen, because by the time I was 15, I was the national champion. And there's a group of people that are now huge stunt coordinators named Mike Chatteradaba, John Valera, Stephen Ho. They were all in my clique when I was a kid. I'm just a kid from Detroit is the way I've always looked at it. And I decided to get back into martial arts after the Army. And I was an Army combat medic and everything. And I decided to get into martial arts, and it took, but it didn't take. I knew that I needed to go back to school. College to me was something I always wanted to do because nobody in my family ever did it. So I went back to school, and then I got back into martial arts. And it was one of those things where who ends up being the teacher of the stunt class? It was Robert Alonzo, and he was getting ready to do Star Trek. And my first job in the movie industry as a PA, go get me coffee, go get me this sandwich, go get me that, to the executive producer, UPM line producer, Martin Hornstein, rest his soul, he passed away, but he became my mentor because at first he wanted me to be a producer, and then he decided once he saw how much passion I had with stunts, he's like, stunts is going to be what you're going to do. And you're not just going to be a stunt man. You're not just going to be a stunt double. You're going to be a stunt coordinator. And he took me under his belt like that. And yeah, I can honestly say Star Trek saved my life. I've been doing stunts ever since. You know, now I'm not just a stunt man, stunt double, stunt coordinator. I'm also a second unit director, and I'm getting ready to produce my first feature film that they asked me to come and produce. As the second unit director, they're giving me points. So I'm very happy to say, baby, I'm still in it.
But the real question, Shawn, is if you can speak Klingon or not. I mean, I think that's what everybody actually wants to know.
Oh.
Well, I'm glad.
No.
Yes, Janeshia, exactly.
No, I can speak Borg.
Okay.
Borg. Klingon is a different entity. I don't want to speak for them because they take 3 hours of makeup, and I like 5. Yeah, give me 5 hours of makeup. I can get paid longer.
Well, you know, I'm glad all of you touched on a bit of your crafting and your background. And part of that is acting. So I want to know what kind of investments you've made into your crafting, whether it's taking, I think some of you mentioned acting classes, driving courses, and how that's influenced or impacted your career.
I go first because, like I said, I moved to Los Angeles to become an actor. So my whole point was to hone my craft. So while I'm pursuing a stunt career, it gave me the funds to take classes at the Groundlings, to Beverly Hills Playhouse, to Ivana Chubbuck Studios, you know, Cy Richardson, Richard Lawson, you know, all of those I honed my skills with. And thank God for that, because now that I'm living in Atlanta, I kind of stand out. I'm like a pea in a pod here. So I get a lot of auditions. And as a result, I've been booking a lot. So now that I can balance my stunt career, it's one of the best day jobs I have right now, while becoming an aspiring actor. But also with my stunts, it gave me money so I could take more driving courses to get better at driving, and to take fighting courses, and to take martial arts and weapons classes while I was in Los Angeles. So all of, I can say I give homage to my stunt career because it financed my entire acting career, and as well as my other stunt skills career.
Yeah, I would, I take the acting classes mainly because even though I might be doing stunts, I consider it all acting. It's just action acting. Yeah. Especially if I'm doubling an actress, I'm basically the extension of whatever they've created for that character. So I'm still in character, I'm still acting. And so I do it for that. And also because I am an actress. So you want to take those classes because it helps you with, you know, character, script breakdown. It touches on everything that you need so that you can excel on camera. It helps with timing. It helps with just dialogue, diction dialogue. I can't even tell you how many times where I've come in and there might be something that changes in the script on the day. And someone's like, hey, anybody in stunts, can you act? Can you deliver a line? And I'm like, well, I can't. I have acting classes. I take them Monday through Friday. So even in these COVID times, now everything is on Zoom. Yeah. But yeah, I think acting definitely helps with the stunt career. I mean, they go hand in hand, actually, I think.
And I can add on to that. I've done the acting, I've done the improv, I've done the commercial. You know, we have to do that. That's just really a part of what we are, because we are actors. We might not always have the dialogue, but I feel like we have one of the biggest acting jobs on set, because we have to take on the characteristics of someone else and make them believable as if it was ourselves. So, I mean, that's the ultimate acting role all in itself. The improv classes have helped me. And like Janeshia said, you know, we get on set and they want to give us a line, or we'll get an audition where we have to come in and actually read for the part because there's dialogue before the action or after the action. So I feel like acting classes, improv classes, commercial classes, anything like that, I think is very important for our career. Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, I've learned taking groundling classes really helped tremendously, because a lot of the actors I double are all comedians, and they go off script nonstop. As a matter of fact, the last feature I did, for 2 days, the actor didn't even bother showing up and said, Shawn got it. And so I had to play the actor and do what he had to do because he didn't want to be anywhere near some of the explosions that were coming his way. So I was able to mimic his facial expressions and what he would do on, running and falling and everything else. And I didn't say any words except ooh, ah, ah, type of things. But yeah, for 2 days straight, it was me. And it made me feel really good when the director said something to him. And he's like, oh yeah, that's Shawn Balentine. I'm so grateful for him. And it makes you feel really humbled and grateful when they see that you have done your work. You're not just there because, somebody said that you could be a stuntman or a stunt woman or a stunt player. We're here because we're professionals and we do the work outside when nobody sees it.
I think it's important for every stunt performer to take an acting class, because when it comes to roles like Janeshia and Alyma said, something pops up, you could easily book that role, like, what Shawn does, like what Shawn does all the time. And when it comes to indie roles, which is nondescript roles, where you're on the set and you're just a hostage or you're playing a bank robber, and it helps you to be prepared. And a lot of times, especially with all of us, I noticed that we book those indie roles because the stunt coordinators know that we can perform. At the end of the day, Shawn's gonna do the job. Alyma's gonna bring it. And Janice is gonna make it happen. You know what I mean? So I think that's a great asset to have as a stunt performer, in addition to the stunt skills.
For me, there wasn't as much in the way of the acting portion of it. I mean, mine's always got these great lines like, we're low on fuel, I gotta go. Those are the big lines you get as a pilot. So
those are crucial lines. No small parts. Come on.
Exactly.
But like
no small part.
I'm always supposed to be somebody else and stuff. So are
we.
Yeah, I know. We all are. We're all supposed to be somebody else. So most of the time, whatever involved any kind of lines, they're doing that. So I didn't have to do much of that. But it's been interesting, and a lot of the other training. I mean, some of mine was when I was in the military. I was at the tail end of Vietnam, but they didn't send me there. They sent me to Fort Knox. I spent a year there with a whole unit that just got back from Fort Knox. So they shared with me everything they learned by being in combat, and nobody had to shoot at me. So that was kind of a nice feature to learn all of that without the other part of it. And then went into corporate flying. I worked in Northern Canada for a while, learned a lot of stuff about flying in the bush up in the middle of nowhere. And just from there, flew seaplanes, flew a lot of different aircraft before I even got to doing film work. I was already doing a lot of different aircraft. So I just brought that part with me on doing this stuff. And
Dana, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You worked in one of my favorite movies, Tropic Thunder. Can you
yes.
Tell me what you did in that? I'm sorry, it's one of my favorite movies.
Tropic Thunder, actually, I spent a lot of time on the ground on that one. I did some of the flying of the UEs when you see them running around doing stuff. Some of the films, it depended, like Pearl Harbor, big explosion scenes and stuff. Instead of me flying, I had 13 aircraft in the air and telling them where to be. So that's where you're playing more coordinator than pilot at that point. So it just depended on the job. A lot of the jobs are just flying the camera stuff. It's like Horse Whisperer. I did stuff on that, but there's only one time you see a helicopter, and I didn't even do that part. It's all flying the camera. So it's two different jobs, but sometimes they're both together, where one of us will fly camera and another one's flying the other one. So it's just a matter of what you acquire. But is acting a big part of it? Nah, not as much as it is for the rest of you. So
fantastic stories. So when I feel like in layman's terms, when we think of a stunt performer, we always think about like the person who's doubling for, Queen Latifah or some other actor. So I'm curious what your relationship with that actor who you're doubling for is like. Any memorable relationships that you've had, friendships that you have forged, because like you've mentioned, you are an extension of that actor. You're an extension of that role, really.
I can say that I, because I've been doing this since 2000, that there probably are, are two people who I love. And one is Queen Latifah. Now, I'm not her double on Equalizer because I didn't want to pack up and kind of move to New York for 7 months. That's not my aspirations anymore, unless it was here, but we text each other, we call each other. She called me last week asking questions about stuff for the Equalizer, which I'm so honored. She's, we have a special friendship, as well as I do with Viola Davis. I love her. We'll text each other out the blue every now and then. So if you worked on, I would say 3 or more movies with your actor and you get along, I feel like you kind of develop a rapport and they trust you. They trust that, again, you're an extension of them. So and I like to talk. And I like to get to know people outside of the, of film and television. And I think that helps a lot with actors in my relationship with them. So we have other things to talk about. So I'm grateful to that.
You'd get a relationship with the actors that you were flying around. It was like on Courage Under Fire, had Luke Diamond Phillips and Matt Damon, a few people like that. And that's mostly before people knew who Matt even was. So it was kind of interesting to spend the day with them. And then we'd go into town and play pool in the local pool hall because nobody there knew who any of us were. So it was kind of fun. But just that, it's like, it's in that case, helping Matt understand what we were about to do to him to make him look like he was going to slide out the door, but that he'd be safe. And he's like, oh, I got this. It won't bother me at all. It's like, he didn't have to act very much. It sure scared the hell out of him when we did that. But he was rigged in safely. There was nothing that was going to happen to him.
I'll say that I've worked with quite a bit of obviously African-American actresses that I've doubled. I'm not going to say each one was like the best person ever, because at the end of the day, I'm there to do my job and to do it super amazing. So I've had actors that have respected my talent, who, have said thank you. And then that's that. And then I have other actresses that I've doubled who will, if they get on a job, they'll totally request me to the coordinator, hey, you got to get Janeshia. I had her in the last movie. She was amazing. She was awesome. But I just do the job, not expecting them to call me again. I don't do it for that. When it happens, I'm very appreciative. There's 3 I can think of in my head that I love to death. One would be Aisha Hines. I doubled her for Fox's 911. She would totally tweet out and message out oh, this is my double. She did an amazing job. Another one would be Michaela Gibson, who I doubled on Fear the Walking Dead. Till this day, we still hang out and have lunch if we're in the same area. She's been out to Atlanta several times while I'm on location. We've talked. And then Anjanou Ellis, who I doubled on Lovecraft Country, which is where the Emmy nomination came from. She was very supportive, very appreciative of my skills. But I've been lucky to have actresses that have been involved with the stunts and kind of want to know what's going on. Hey, what's going here? They ask questions. I love when they ask questions because I feel like you should know. You should never feel scared to ask a question, what's going on, how to move. Because I'm constantly in dialogue with them. Okay, what's your dominant hand? What's your dominant foot? Do you want to put your knee on the ground? Do you not? So I would say that's been my experiences with my actresses. Yeah.
Yeah, at this moment, I think I'm on number 48 or 50 as far as the amount of actresses that I'm doubling or have doubled. So I don't even say that to brag. I say that to say sometimes I have a relationship with them and sometimes I don't. I could literally be sitting next to my actress and she not even speak to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, so that's what we're doing today. Got it. But then I can be on another show and they be like, oh my God, Alyma, help me with this. And then I have some actresses that want to do all of their stunts. And I have some actresses that don't want to do any of their stunts. And so based on kind of what they want, as well as their emotional level at that time and how much energy they can give to us and vice versa, always kind of dictates my relationship with my actress. A show that I just got off of, I was on there for 8 months. So my actress and I, we really bonded. And we bonded over the bad things that were happening. And so that made our relationship really, really close, you know? And so it just really depends. I'm doubling an actress right now who was the very first actress that I doubled in 2012. And we didn't have a relationship on the first show that I doubled her on. But now all of a sudden, this show, she's way more open to having a relationship with me. So I'm almost like Janeshia. I never go on set trying to establish a relationship. I do go on set trying to be the most professional stunt performer that I can be, which also means making sure that my actress is safe. Depending on how much she wants me to be there will determine our relationship. But most of them are awesome. I don't exchange numbers with all of my actresses because that's a private thing. Like if they want to give me their number, that's great. But I don't treat them as if they're anything more special, I think, than what I'm doing, because I feel like we're almost equal, to be honest with you. So the relationship for me just really goes hand in hand. Whatever they want, I'm there for. If they want a relationship, great. If they don't want a relationship, that's fine. I'm here to make sure you're safe anyway, and to make sure you look good. So it's all relative, I believe.
For me, it's been interesting. I have like the same set of group that I double a lot. And some of them are just so amazing because, you know, we're just there as an extension of the character at the end of the day. And the fact that they trust me to be that extension of the character with them. And we sit there and we talk about notes sometimes and how we want this to be ratcheted up in the middle of an action scene or brought down in the middle of an action scene. And I want to say Patton Oswalt is one of the best out there, especially when I was coming out. He really gave me helped me out so much. He gave me a press release on his backing for me and everything. You know, I ended up being in his rider and everything. Chaz Bono, another person, Cher's son, yes. So I got to work with Chaz on American Horror Story, and Cher came out to set and baked us all cookies. Like, who gets that?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Well, who has two actresses that they have the same birthday? So you
exactly.
I had two actresses. We have the same birthday, okay, Shawn? Jeez.
Yeah, like we get these amazing experiences that most people don't, and I find that so rewarding and so grateful because we don't just ask to be honored, we ask to be human, and with them we became human with them, and we became, like I said, the extension of the part. And so I've been brought on to multiple shows with, you know, these actors, and I find it pretty sad though. And this is something, since Dana said something, I'm gonna elaborate a little bit. I find it sad though when I got asked to do Chaz Bono, we have a workplace on Facebook thing, and 3 people turned down Chaz, and they didn't turn it down in a professional manner. They turned it down to the cut your throat type of manner, really hurting. You know, the same type of thing that's happening today as we speak at Netflix, that is getting ready to be marched upon today from coordinators and from showrunners about the trans community. And I feel like I have an obligation to talk about that a little bit because I double a transgender man on American Horror Stories, and I got threats because of it. And I find that absolutely disgusting. And thankfully, those threats have gone down, but they're still out there. And there's no place to even tell anybody. And so you just have to deal with it yourself. And these days, I just don't have time for people like that. I really don't. My career is still going off. They can try to kill me and tell me that they want to kill me and come to my house and spray paint my garage door faggot all they want, and, you know, text me and say, how's the spray? letting me know that it's certain coordinators that are actually writing me from Marvel shows in their emails. That way I know who they are. And that way I try to get scared, but you know what? They're not signing my paychecks. I'm not sitting down for dinner with them. So yeah, I feel a little bit of sadness sometimes when I see that people like Dana, who worked her butt off to get to where she is and not working right now. And I just find that so disheartening, so disheartening to me. And I feel like the more we become bigger names in the industry, the more we can be able to help the next generation.
Shawn, thank you for sharing those stories and, showing a side of the industry that needs addressing. So I want to ask all of you, as these issues are being brought to light more and more, as this transparency is hopefully coming in the industry, what is one substantive way you want to see the stunt performer industry become more inclusive? How can it become more inclusive?
Become more professional. This is a job. It's not some Jimmy Bob's backyard. We are protected under state laws and federal laws. That is why I just got asked, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this. I got asked to testify in front of Congress regarding the Equality Act. So when my butt goes across state lines to Mississippi, to New Mexico, to Alabama, to Atlanta, to Michigan, and I've filmed in all those areas, I do not lose my rights. I do not lose my rights. Let me clarify. I do not lose my rights, and I'm a veteran of the United States of America, and I can lose my rights.
One way I think that, well, not just one way, but a way that I think that we can be more inclusive in the stunt community is if we stop sugarcoating things and start being transparent and honest. And I mean that by saying we have to acknowledge the fact that half of our coordinators are Caucasian males. We have to openly and acknowledge the fact that less than half of our coordinators are African American, are females. We have to acknowledge the fact that we have indie nondescript roles that do not go to a lot of non-Caucasian performers. So I get really amped up and energetic about these type of questions because it's like, what can we do to make stuff easier? It's like, well, let's start being honest and being transparent and not being scarred or scared of the truth, because you're not going to get anywhere until you address the truth. So that's how I think. We got to acknowledge what is happening, what has been happening, and what continues to happen because we don't address the truth. Until we start getting qualified professionals in those positions that are dominated by mainly Caucasians, we're going to keep having conversation and questions on like, what can we do to change things? There are so many creative, innovative content creators that are non-Caucasian that can be in the sitting room, at the table, coordinating. We're there. Hell, Alyma's been coordinating projects. You know what I mean? So let's stop sugarcoating stuff and hiding behind what reality shows.
One of the reasons I started Stunt Park is because of what Janeshia said. There is a need for diversity, and especially in the stunt community, I find that I don't fight as hard in acting because acting is what it is. Acting is becoming diverse. If you look at the shows on TV now, you see diverse characters on TV. Stunts is still stuck in 1965, and it has to change because this country is not 1965. So not just from, a minority standpoint, as far as with race, but also with gender equality. You know what I mean? Also, with disability, equality, because you see so much inclusions and diversity in acting that I'm seeing that you're growing. Look at the Emmys. The last Emmys was so full of, of diversity. But we're not seeing that in the stunt community. And I'm very verbal on it if someone asks me a question. So like Janeshia said, we need to stand up for it. And I think the 4 people here today, the Alyma, Shawn, and Janice, and even you, Dana, we're just not having it anymore. So we're not afraid to speak up. And I think the more people who are not afraid to speak up, the more that it will call for change and that it has to change. Because guess what? I'm not afraid to speak up because I no longer work for people who don't want me on their set. I don't need to work for them. So the more that we could become brave enough to say that, the more that we could say, you know what, I'm not working for you because you're an asshole and you're a racist and you're a bigot and you're a misogynist. The more that the community has to stand up and rise from that. That's just me. I don't know.
Absolutely. I'm with you. I feel like, to sum it up, in order to have a systematic change in this industry, you need to get more people of color, more women, people from the protected class into leadership roles, period. We won't be able to actually move up until we have someone up at the top who's actually helping us to move up. Because as long as we're not allowed to be in those leadership roles like coordinators, second unit directors, it's going to be very difficult for us to continue advancing. So we need to get more people, more people of color, more women, more people from the protected classes into those leadership roles so that we all can continue to rise, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and there, you can't continue to use the excuse, oh, I couldn't find a Black female. I couldn't find a Hispanic male. I couldn't find a Native American female. Like, you can't, that excuse is long gone. There are so many qualified professionals from every ethnic background, from every gender. It's crazy. Like, to say you can find a talented African-American stunt woman is crazy. Like,
in this day and time,
so,
it's crazy. In this day and time.
It's crazy, but we also
that's why you have to be honest and transparent.
Absolutely. But we also need an outreach program that will help bring more diversity into the industry as well, so that we can keep it going and keep it flourishing. We can't just go from the current talent that we have. So I believe another way to create more systematic changes is to do more outreach and actually bringing more talented, diverse, ethnic individuals into the community. Because let's face it, stunts is a numbers game.
Well, that's what Ava DuVernay, I can say she's doing with Array. If you ever looked at her database of Array people, which is diverse with different colors and ethnicities and, LGBTQ, she's bringing all that to one database so she can hire different diversities on her set. We have to have more studios and filmmakers like her who has to stand up and say, I want this on my set. Let's choose from my database. You know what I mean? We need more studios to back us on that outreach. Because we can have an outreach, but you get to set it and they could say, nah, we all know this. So how do we get to that part?
I believe we should have an outreach program that actually mentors people or women, people of color, the protected class, that actually mentors them so that they can be amazing stunt performers. So when I speak of an outreach, I don't mean just people of the same age. I mean also kids that we can actually bring up in the industry so that they could have experience by the time they're 18, 19, 20, and we can actually keep it going, because we have a group of ethnic people in our industry, which is great, but we need more. We need more.
I agree.
We need more. Because at the end of the day, if it's a numbers game, say you have 100 white men, 20 of them might be great stuntmen. Well, we don't have 100 Black men. We have to say now 20 Black men. So 2 of them are going to be great. It's a numbers game. We need to get more ethnic people in the industry, more people of color, more women, more of the protected classes, and we need to get them mentored so that they could be on that level that we need them to be as well.
Wow.
Diamond in the Raw is doing that right now, but it's still just a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, well, she works hard on it. I've been told shortly after I transitioned, I had one of the members of my pilot group came to me and said, yeah, I've got at least one of the guys is telling me they think you shouldn't be in the group anymore because you're a bad representation for us now. It's like, really? I became a bad representation because I transitioned. And it was just.
So your group is just as bold as the stunt industry. It's crazy.
Oh, well, the pilot group I come from, other than there's one woman in it, all the rest of them, it's white guys. It's like, which is not particularly surprising. It's a small group, but that's what it is.
Not for long. I'm currently getting my private pilot license at the moment. I'm going to go into my commercial license. So hopefully we can fill that gap.
That would be good. We need to get.
We're trying. They cannot say we don't exist. They just need to do a little bit more research because we do.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people have told me it's like, oh, it's because of your age. It's like, well, yes, I am getting older. So are all the other pilots I work with that are still working.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As long as we continue to find excuses on why things are the way they are, they will continue to be that way. Yeah. I did a post on Instagram about that. They will continue, Dana, to find an excuse on why it is.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, under scrutiny, those excuses don't seem to stand up. And it sounds like, one solution is to build that pipeline, like you said, Alyma, and then pay people fairly. But that's another conversation.
On time.
Well, I want to close out this conversation on a hopeful note. I want to know, what's a piece of advice you would give to young actors, young stunt performers, or just people who want to get into this industry, especially if they're from underrepresented groups, especially if they're from the LGBTQ community?
So I will say this, and I say this to all of the youth or people that I speak to when I'm at engagements. I always tell them this. One, before I say anything, is never allow anyone to deter you from your dreams, your aspirations, and your goals. That's the first thing. And I say that because I reached out to a veteran stunt woman who looks like me when I was making my pursuits. And she provided me with no help, literally in very little words, said, I cannot help you. Had I been weak-minded, not strong enough, or whatever the case might be, I would not be sitting on the Zoom with you today. So I always tell them that first. Never allow anyone to deter you from your dreams, your aspirations, and your goals. And then the second thing I would say is stay persistent. No just means not with you, not at this moment, because no is not an option. You can reach whatever it is you want to do because you have the DNA for success, right? We know this industry is a roller coaster. It's up and down. You might not work every day, but if you feel like you're operating in your passion, if you feel like you're operating in your purpose, you will win. And I think a lot of times we don't do what we want to do because we don't have the confidence. So I try to give people the confidence first so that they can already have that armor on when they walk into this industry, knowing that it might be a roller coaster of up and down. So that's the advice I would give them. And do not do this for the money. Money can only last for so long, but your passion and your purpose will keep you and sustain you forever. That's what I would say.
I would add to that, stay true to you. I wish I would have known earlier, don't be afraid to speak up if you don't feel safe, number one. And if you don't feel don't compromise what you don't feel comfortable with, what they want. If I would have known that 20 years ago, because if you have the talent and you have the skill and you believe yourself, there's someone out there who's always going to hire you. That person may not, but there is someone out there who's going to hire you. If you got the skills, you got the talent and the personality, because they like working with people that they like, So don't compromise yourself and your soul and your safety for someone else's benefit. Speak up on it. That's very important.
I always get so spiritual when it comes to this because I'm always like, what God has for you can't no man take away. That's always my thing. It's like, if this is what is in the plan for you, you are going to be successful, period. No man is going to be able to take away that success. So that's my go-to. What God has for you can no man take away. Right. That's really what I say to everybody.
So now I've changed careers recently since then. I now work for company called Vigilant that we provide safety inspectors for different films and television shows and stuff. And that's been a pretty good transition for me. And it's a business that has absolutely no issue with the fact that I transitioned. It was, most of people don't necessarily even know that I did, nor when they find out could even care less whether I did or didn't. It's just not that big of a deal. They're more concerned about what work I can do. So that's been good for me because it was not an easy choice to just say, okay, but after 10 years, it wasn't too hard to give up after only getting 3 days of work. I had to work at something that made money.
You know, I do also want to just piggyback with Janeshia too. And I always tell people, like, you cannot do this job for the money. Like, I have to stress that, because there's been some jobs that I've done and I'm just like, yo, this money ain't even worth it. Like, I didn't even need this money. Like, I could have been without it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't even want it. Matter of fact, you could take it back. You know, seriously. So, you know, that is the thing for me. Like, you have a lot of the newer kids coming in and they have a couple of, you know, entitlement issues, and they just, you know, they want to make that money. And I remember my mentors, when I came in, they didn't even care about seeing their names on the, you know, at the end of the screen. They didn't even stay to watch their names. Now you go to the movie, you can tell all the stunt people, because they're always the ones, so they can see their name waiting up on the screen. So it's a brand new generation. So you can't do this job for the money, because the injuries that you get, the psychological warfare that you go through, you're too big, you're too small, you're too this, you're too that, you're too light, it's the money. No money actually can pay for what we go through. So it has to be a passion. It has to be something that we would do for free. Basically, my first couple jobs that I did was for free, because I was trying to learn, you know? So this job has to come from within. If you're doing it just to see how much money you're going to make, you're not going to last long, and you're definitely not going to grow in this industry. And this is an ever growing industry, because there's always going to be someone here who knows more than you, you know, who has more skills than you. So you always have to train. You always have to get better. And there's no end to the knowledge that you learn and to the experiences that you can gain. So for me, I always tell people, listen, you cannot do this job for the money at all. No. It be something that you got to live, breathe, die stunts because you love it, not because you can't get paid a certain amount of money.
Yeah, and you need to approach it with the respect that it deserves, because particularly in pilots, I find a lot of the new ones think it's like, hey, I'm going to impress you because I'm going to go do all this crazy stuff. And it's like, yeah, some of the stuff we do is pretty crazy, but we're not idiots. We're very planned about how we do it. And when they go off and try to impress you, you see that that's the guy that's going to say, oh, I'll impress this director. He'll think I'm great. And it's like, oh, here comes an accident waiting to happen. And
oh my God, Dana, you're so right. Like to piggyback off what Dana just said. So I try to tell people, it's not just when I'm doing stunts. It's not just stunts. It's actually stunts and safety. But we forget about the and safety portion of it. And it's stunts and safety. So it's like, be honest about your skill set, right? Because when we're talking to new generations and the people coming up, I always tell them, be honest about your skills. If you can't swim, say you can't swim. If they ask you to do a fall and you have a limit, say, hey, my limit is 20 feet. I can't do 40 feet, you know? And they might even work with you. Well, you know what? We don't even need 20 feet. We'll just do 10. You know what I mean? So it's all about honesty, because this is stunts and safety. And the key to it is, I'm not a daredevil. I'm a trained professional. And I like to let people know that too. I'm a trained professional, and what my profession is stunts. And I will never get in a race with money. I did track my entire life. I will never get in a race with money. This is all passion and purpose.
Now, I always like to say that you need to pause sometimes, and you need to be able to let yourself feel the feelings of what you're feeling, especially doing stunts, because a lot of times we're high adrenaline, high intensity. But if you can't focus in that moment, there goes a safety aspect, and then we don't remember about that safety aspect. You know, if you're new in this and you really want to do it, grow. Don't bring your talent just because you're a parkour flipper. That's nice. Can you fall down? Can you make it dirty? Do you mind getting your hair wet? Oh, no, you don't? Well, then I'm sucked. But guess what? You're not going to be able to work on this set if you don't mind getting that damn hair wet. I'm sorry. You know, it's stupid stuff, but funny stuff, but we have all seen it. Like people screaming because they got their hair wet, you know, and I'm like, you're jumping in the water. What do you expect? You're going through, you're busting down a wall, and you're mad that you're going to have like a little scrape on you on a dust. Guess what? It's called a stunt. We don't get paid to look pretty. We don't get paid to look like crap. We get paid because we're damn good at it, and we're damn good to make sure that our actors look fantastic doing what the gag was written on that stage. I mean, we're written on those pages. We are there to help grow it, make it, prop it, and sell it. And to anybody that ever says that you're less than, you're worthless, you're this, you're that, that's coming from them and not coming from you. Remember, it's okay to reach out to other people that you trust. And even if you think that you trust them and then they stab you on the back, that's happened to me many, many a times. There's more people out there that you can trust. That person's just dealing with their internal homophobic demons or any internal demons that they have, and do not let that get on you. Get that goo off of you and just keep going and keep striving to be the best person you can be. These stunts that we're here, I am so grateful to be in this thing with you guys. My Carmen and arms, like, let's go kick some butt, but let's do it fantastic and powerful and bust those damn rainbow ceilings. Let's do this shit.
I don't think I could have asked for a better closer. Shawn, you really brought it home for us. Thank you.
Shawn, you got me all excited, yo.
Ready. Yes.
This was such a fantastic discussion. I'm so happy that you were all able to join us. And on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, I just want to thank you for sharing your experiences, your process, your craft with your fellow performers.